Hi, I'm Lisa Murphy, and today's topic is creative art with young children. It's the process, not the product. And we're going to spend some time talking about what that means, but right out the gate, I'm going to give you two examples. Number one, this is a paper plate. And one of the activities that we would call a process-oriented art activity is magnet marble painting. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. So I have some liquid watercolor, and I'm going to put a little bit of yellow on my plate and a little bit of blue. And then I'm going to take my magnetic marbles and I'm going to put them in my paint. And then I'm going to take my magnet 1 and put it under. And I'm dragging those magnetic marbles through the paint. Tracking, hand-eye coordination, color mixing, a lot of stuff going on here. And as I take off the marbles, this is what we'd hang up on the wall. If your program actually displays children's art, this is what you'd hang up. I am giving you permission from this point forward that you don't have to cut it out into the shape of a fish. No more fishes. Process versus product. Oh, but we think, oh, it's fish week, it's fish week, it's fish week. But this isn't a fish. And what do we know about little kids is that we don't start thinking abstractly until we're around 9, 10, or 11 years old. So if it really is fish week, you have two choices. You either need to be bringing fish into the classroom or you need to bring the kids to go see some fish. Oh, but we're not allowed to have a pet in the classroom. Well, then go see some. Oh, we're not allowed to leave the building. Well, then why are you talking about fish? And besides, this isn't a fish. It's a plate. And then we trip ourselves up and we say, oh, but we let them glue the eyes wherever they wanted. But it still isn't a fish. It's a paper plate. And the other sad reality is that the child did this by themselves, and then we did this while they were napping. Again, I'm giving you permission. You don't have to cut it out into the shape of a fish. Second example, right here. Big, huge coffee filters. They're not snowflakes. They're not. They don't have to be a snowflake. Process-oriented art would mean that we take these huge coffee filters. Oh, and I know right now you're wondering, where do I get those coffee filters? I'll tell you, it's a two-man job. You go to Starbucks, and one of you distracts the boy in the front, and the other one runs in the back, and then you'll get a whole bunch of stuff. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I got some red, and I've got some blue, and I'm dripping the liquid watercolor right here onto my huge coffee filter. Red, yellow, blue. We've got some color mixing. Primaries are going to mix together to make the secondaries. Boom, there you go. Huge coffee filter. This is what you have to hang up, just like this. And I know it can be very difficult, but you must stay strong, and you must resist the urge to make it into a flower. It does not need to be a flower. It doesn't. It doesn't. And it doesn't need to be a butterfly, and it doesn't need to be a hat, and it doesn't need to be a bow. Just like this. This is what you'd hang up on the wall. This is what you'd hang from the window. This is what you'd put from the ceiling, right? You hang it up from, oh, but we're not allowed to hang from the ceiling because a fire marshal might come. Well, he's not coming today, so don't worry about it. Now, I also want to remind you that if the child actually says to you on their own that they want to make it into a flower, that's entirely different. But you've got to make sure that it's coming from the child. If the child on their own was standing at the table and they were drip, and then they looked at me and were like, oh, Miss Lisa, oh, I want to turn this into a flower, then my response is, what do I need to go get you? It's not that we're anti-flower. You want to make a flower? Knock yourself out. But it's the child's idea, not mine. My job is to be the facilitator of the experience, not the instigator of the experience. So if the child wants to do it, then my job is to assist them in getting whatever they might need. But if they're like, oh, I want to make a flower, and I just take it and twist it and put that pipe cleaner on it, whose is it? It's mine. It's my flower. And the other thing that we're going to say, and I'm going to toss it right out there, and then we're going to get to the rest of the stuff on the handout, is a gentle reminder that every single time we take something that the child did and we turn it into something else, we are telling the child that what they did wasn't good enough. Take a breath and blow it out. Okay, so now we're going to jump into the handout. Right there. Creative art with young children. What does it mean? Okay, so what does it say? It says it means not having bulletin boards covered with 24 identical penguins, and you saying, oh, but I let them put the eyes wherever they wanted. And second of all, why are you even talking about penguins? I mean, depending on where you live, what we know about kids, right? I just said it. They can't think abstractly. Did you go see a penguin? You know, did you bring one in? Or are you just talking about penguins because it's December? Did you have one? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you live in Arizona, you don't have snow. You're not talking about penguins. You don't even have them there. So let's keep going. It means not making kids do art. You can't force kids to make a project. One time there was a child and they were engaged in something else, and I was still young and I was still changing my mind and I was still growing in my development as a teacher, and I interrupted him and I made him come to the table to do a project. Come on, come to the project, come on. He went over and he took the brush. He's like, bam, 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 done. You know, who was that for? Was that for me? Was that for the child? Whose needs were being met by the fact that I did that? You know, mine, not the child's. It means having huge sheets of paper available. And many of you have heard me say this before, that the younger the child, the bigger the paper. Younger the child, bigger the paper. If you only have little bitty bits of paper and you put it down, the children are still going to paint just like this because that's where they're going. Lots of large motor movement there. So even if you give them small, they're still going to make it big. So get big, huge sheets of paper. Next one on your handout. It means seeing the possibility of painting with things other than brushes. And you'll see even here just a small sampling of things, not just brushes. We have fly swatters definitely for painting with. We have big, huge plungers for painting with. That's a good outsize painting. We've got different kinds of potato mashers for painting. These bath puffs, ladies, you get these every holiday, every Mother's Day, every Valentine's Day. You get tons of these. You can paint them, or paint with them, excuse me. Another kind of a bath brush, little baby plungers. This is a massage roller. That makes really cool designs. Toothbrushes, car paintings. These were dog toys. I got it at a pet store. You could paint with that too. Whole bunch of different things to paint, not always brushes. But then you can't actually use brushes, but make them kind of more unique and novel. This is a helmet paintbrush, and you can put the brushes on the helmet, and then the kids can stand at the easel and paint up and down like that. You'll definitely want to give that a try at some point. It means no more dittos, and no more patterns, and no more cut out art. A nice rule of thumb is that if it's taking you longer to get the activity ready than it takes the children to do it, chances are it is product-oriented art. And we want to start working on being more process-oriented. It means it doesn't have to look like anything, ever, even if it's Fish Week. It means being aware of the stages of scribbling. And if you are following along in your handout, there's some samples of scribbling on the next page. Rhoda Kellogg is actually credited with identifying that there are 80 stages of scribbling before children write. 80 stages. And the first one, and many of you have seen this, is banging. And you've all seen it before, especially right after you bought a new batch of markers. And you put the markers out, and within 20 minutes of putting the markers out, all the tips are gone, and we're watching them bang, 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 and I just bought those, and so we take them from them with the thank you, right? Thank you, we say thank you. That's why we don't have nice things. And I'm putting the markers out, and I'm forgetting that if I have children smack in the middle of banging, they're going to bang the markers. The secret to good teaching is learning how to control the environment. So if I have a bunch of children smack in the middle of banging everything and I give them markers, it's my own fault that I have a headache. So I have to give them something else that's not going to get me so frustrated. So that's why we paint with plungers. This is the motion that the children are going after. So we have big plungers, and we have small plungers as well. Also the sponges and stampers. This is the motion. So we don't have time today to go through all of the 80 stages of scribbling, but I mostly want you to be aware of the fact that when children are just doodling, or it appears that they're just scribbling on the paper, it is actually a very important part of their development. It means not making models and not making examples. We're not saying, this is what we're doing today, and then expecting all 20 kids to copy, because that's not creative expression at all. It means not drawing for the child. Not drawing for the child. And this can be kind of tricky, depending on when you were trained and where you were trained and kind of what educational bandwagon the United States was on when you kind of cut your teeth as a teacher. Sometimes you were taught to sit and draw with the children. But what I have found is that actually the children just start copying whatever you are doing. And now we're back to who is it for and what are we doing and whose needs are being met by this. Sometimes they'll say, but draw me a house and draw me a house. And if I sit there and I draw a house, again, whose house is it? It's probably my house. It might not be representative at all of the child's own experience. When I'm working as a mentor teacher, and the teachers that I might be with are in the habit of sitting and drawing for the children, my initial out-the-gate baby step is to encourage them to change hands, still sit with the kids, but use their non-dominant hand and begin copying whatever the children are doing. Example, so if I'm right-handed and I'm sitting at the table with the children and they're banging on the paper or they're just kind of randomly scribbling back and forth, I'm now going to put the crayon or the marker in my left hand and I'm going to copy what they are doing. And eventually I encourage them to get out from the table, all the way out, get them out. I need you moving around the room. I need you being a facilitator. I need you observing. And if I have lost you to the table drawing rainbows and hearts and butterflies, one, you're not paying attention to what else is going on in the classroom. And number two, we're back to making models and examples, and the children are going to attempt to copy us. Refrains from over-commenting. This can be, again, a little bit tricky depending on where you were trained and who trained you. Some of us were taught that the minute a child drew a picture, we're supposed to ask them about a story or tell us about your picture. And sometimes we were even taught to write your name and your age and your mother's maiden name and your social security number. And there's all of this writing all over the children's art. You don't have to over-comment. The most encouraging thing that you can tell a child after they have done their project, whether they're at the easel, whether they're at the table, the most encouraging thing you can say is, can I get you some more paper? Can I get you some more paper? Can I get you more of what you were just using in order to continue this creative expression? There it is right on your handout. The nice rule of thumb. I'm going to say it again. If it takes you longer to get it ready than it takes them to do it, chances are it is not process-oriented art. A few more creative suggestions. Always ask the child where they want their name on their paper. So, to paint you a picture of it, if the child is at the easel and they are drawing or painting at the easel and it appears as though they're finished, I might move in and say, are you finished? Would you like your name on your paper? Do you want your name on your paper? And if they say, yes, I want my name on the paper, then I say, where would you like your name? And then I write it wherever they say. Wherever they say. If they say right here, then we write it right here. And if for some reason I know that I want to write their name at the bottom right corner for whatever reason, then I'm going to set it up that way. And I'm going to say, you know what? Miss Lisa's going to write your name right here. If you ask, where do you want your name, but then you plan on writing it someplace else, we're better off not asking the question. Better off saying, this is where Miss Lisa's going to write your name, as opposed to asking a question. Really, it doesn't matter what the kids are going to say. Sometimes kids say, I don't want my name on my paper, and that's okay too. And if they have said they don't want their name after you've asked them if they want their name, don't sneak back and write it when they're not looking. If the name needs to be captured for whatever reason, that needs to be stated out the gate. Does that make sense? It makes sense. Yes, it does. Let's keep going. Children know their work too, and I should say that. And after you've been hanging out with the same group of kids for a while, you kind of get to know their work as well. So even though the names aren't on the paper, you probably still know who did it. And even if you don't know who did it, there's always one child in the room who knows exactly whose paper is who. And to keep going here for a second, if we really, really, really are committed to encouraging what we call process-oriented art, quite honestly, it doesn't matter if their names get on the paper. Because if the child actually wants to keep what they have made, they are going to keep what they have made. They're going to know whether their name is on it or not, that it is theirs. Process-oriented art. Resist the urge to ask, what is it? What is it? You don't always have to talk about their art project. When the child comes up to you and says, look at my picture. Look, what did they ask you to do? They asked you to look. So look at it. You might feel kind of silly initially. You might feel the need to say something, but you don't have to say something. If the child said look, then look. The child probably didn't say, look at my picture and ask me 1,000 questions about what colors I used. They probably didn't do that. And that leads me to think about something else. I will caution you about asking children questions that you know the answers to. What does that mean? It means, well, actually, I don't even need to tell you what it means. I'll tell you a story. A child was at the easel, and he was painting. And I went up to him, and I said, what colors did you use? And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, well, what colors did you use? And he yelled to the air. He said, hey, guys, Miss Lisa doesn't know her colors. I stopped asking kids questions that I knew the answers to at that point. When they ask, do you like my painting? 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 I don't answer them per se. I will say gently, let me see your picture. So they're running up to me and they're saying, do you like my picture? Do you like my picture? And I'm going to say, let me hold it, let me hold it. And then I hold it. And I hold it up and I look at the child and I say, do you like it? Do you like your picture? Because it really doesn't matter if I like it or not. Do you like your picture? You do? How about if I hold it up? Does it look any different? You still like it? Take 3 giant steps back. Huh? Does it look any different? You still like it? Excellent. Do you need any help hanging this up to dry? You don't? You can do it all by yourself? There you go. So you go hang it up. Can I get you some more paper? My job is to continue the exploration, not to be running around saying I like it or I don't like it or it's pretty or it's not pretty. Resist the urge to over-comment. If the parents come in and they're looking at the bulletin boards and they whisper in your ear, what is it? You're on the right track. But if they're walking in and they're looking at your bulletin board and they're whispering to you, what paper plate cow is Karen's? You know, that's telling me that they all look exactly alike. That also tells me that you spent good, valuable time cutting out a bunch of stuff that the children were then going to stick and glue together, right? So you spent 2 hours getting that activity together, and it took the kids 10 seconds to glue it. In your handout, as you keep going, you'll see on the next page there's stages of scribbling. And then you'll see on the next page that there's an article called Red Paint in the Hair, and permission is granted for you to give that to whoever might need it. On the next page of your handout, it says Tips for Facilitating Process-Oriented Art. What does that mean? Number 1, develop some kind of a creation station in your room. What is that? And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be a big, storage rack or a big container. It could be a shoebox. And inside the shoebox, you've got some tape or some markers or some glue and some scissors. It's the stuff that the children can get independently, that they can use whenever they are needing it. That's what we call the creation station. The next tip that I have for you for developing process-oriented art is having the easel out every single day. The easel. And by easel, it doesn't have to be a fancy easel that you bought from a school supply catalog. I mean, if you have that, that's fantastic. But quite honestly, paper taped to this floor is an easel. Paper taped to these walls would be easels. Paper taped underneath the table so the kids are laying down on their back. That could also be an easel. When I did family childcare, we would allow the children to paint on the sliding glass door. That was a great easel. So don't get locked and loaded on thinking that you have to have one from a school supply. I will also tell you it has to be out every single day. And a good indicator that it's not coming out enough is if when you drag the easel out, 49 kids go running up and are like, ooh, it's the easel, ooh, it's the easel, ooh, it's the easel. That if they get that excited, that tells you that it should be coming out on a more regular basis. It needs to have a place of importance somewhere near the sink, so ease of cleanup, possibly near some kind of a drying rack where the pictures could come right off the easel and then hanging up, right, so they start to dry there. So we can get some more paper up on the easel. Another little bit of advice about the easel is that the paper and the paint need to be ready on there when the children walk in. Already inviting them. It's prepared for them. The paint cups are full. There's brushes in them. Paper is clipped, making sure that it's ready for the children to use. And I'm going to give you one more little bit of advice, but I'm going to encourage you to take a breath first because this can be a biggie for some of you. Take a breath. Ready? When it comes to your easel, the red paint does not need to be in the red cup with the red lid, with the red cap, and with the red brush. Some of you just need to calm down a little bit about that. It's going to be okay. Sometimes teachers say, oh, but they're going to mix their colors. Well, quite honestly, it's art. Color mixing is a part of art. You're not going to learn that yellow and blue mixed together make green if nobody ever lets you mix the colors. But I'm also a realist, and if the thought of those brushes getting mixed up absolutely makes you crazy, then start baby steps. Start slowly. And on each side of the easel, have the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. Start there. But then I want you to back away from the easel. Stop hovering over them. You're the only one that is bothering. So stop watching it. Take a breath and blow it out. What's next? Have an additional art project going on. So you've got your creation station, right? Your kind of independent access art materials. Then you've got your easel, and then you've got your, planned activity that you would be doing in the morning and potentially also in the afternoon. But art needs to be available. So that project that maybe might be more teacher planned needs to be available all day long, not just from 9:45 until 10 o'clock, because that's not enough time. And when you do those activities, when you plan those activities, you can be choosing from many of the ideas that are in your handout and in some of the activities you're going to see here in a few minutes. And the fourth tip for facilitating process-oriented art activities is making sure that the children in your program are wearing play clothes. Wearing play clothes. Clothes that nobody cares about. And I know everybody who's watching right now wishes that they had $1 for every single time that they said, please dress your child in clothes that you don't care about, right? But, you know, we really don't have any control over that. We can always tell the parents, please bring them in clothes that you don't care about. We're going to get messy. We're going to play hard here. But we also have an obligation and a responsibility to make sure that we're using washable paint. And for what it's worth, you got to spend the extra money and buy real washable paint. There is an early childhood urban legend that if you squeeze dish soap into tempera paint, somehow it becomes washable. And I am telling you that is a myth. You have to spend the extra couple of bucks and buy real washable paint. And we're going to put it out there, and the kids are going to play with it. We want to make sure we have extra clothes available too, because not every parent is going to dress them in clothes that they don't care about. So again, taking responsibility and controlling the environment. Instead of banging your head against the wall, telling that one mama, please, please, please bring her in clothes you don't care about, just start accumulating extra clothes. So this way, when that mama drops off that daughter in all her fancy outfit, you're able just to very calmly and pleasantly tell the mama, you know, have a great day, I'll see you a little bit later. And then you look at the little miss and you say, now go change your clothes. So now nobody's having to be stressed out about the kids' clothes. And to go one little step deeper, as the teacher working with younger kids, you need to make sure that you are wearing clothes to work that you don't care about either. And that is not permission to show up to school looking like you need a shower, okay? This is not permission to wear ratty, tatty clothes. But I am also reminding you that your job is to be playful with the children. And we need to make sure that your clothes and your accessories are not getting in the way of that, okay? Okay? Okay, let's keep going. See what's next. The next part of your handout is an article that I wrote called Baby Gap Syndrome, which you're absolutely going to love. So be sure to read that. I'm not going to read it to you. You're big people. You can figure that out. Page 8, how to get free paper. I need you to know this, how to get free paper. If you're going to be committed to early childhood education for a large amount of your adult career, you need to develop what I call the begging spiel. And the begging spiel means that at some point you write it down, it's a little bit of a script, and you memorize it, and you call people in your community, and you ask them for stuff. Hi, my name is Lisa Murphy, and I work up at Carmel Mountain Ranch Children's Center, and I'm wondering if there's anything you throw away on a regular basis that I might be able to use in my classroom. Just memorize it. I called a printer one time, had lots of paper at his disposal. Called him, I was doing the spiel. Hi, my name is blah, 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 blah. He stopped me in the middle, stopped me. He said, do you have a truck? What is the answer to that question? Oh, yeah, sure, I'll find a truck. I didn't have a truck, but I spent all afternoon finding a truck, right? And I drove down. He filled up the entire flatbed pickup truck business, the whole back of the truck, filled it up with paper. I drove back to that center. I was like, I was so excited. And then we unrolled the butcher paper and we did the handprint thank you mural. That was fantastic. That is, you know, all the handprints, but really it's just Mackenzie's hands, and then you write everybody else's name next to it, right? Yeah, you know. So, and I mailed it to him. I didn't pay for paper the entire time that I worked at that program. Why? Because I reached out to the community, found somebody who had some resources, and then the program that I was aligned with was able to benefit from that. I will also tell you, though, that kids don't always need paper for their projects. Many of you have your own children, and the first time your own child took a Sharpie marker to the wall, they didn't say, hold on, let me get some paper. This wall behind, this screams, paint me. And if we put a bunch of 2-, 3-, and 4-year-olds in this room, this would be covered in paint. They don't always need the paper. Okay, remember that. You could put a big sheet down and invite the children just to paint on the sheet, and more than likely the children will accept that invitation. However, that being said, on your handout there are some suggestions on how to acquire free paper, and I hope you use that to your advantage. The last bit of your handout actually is a couple of pages of our favorite art projects, some of our favorite things that we like to do. And as we wrap up the workshop today, we're going to actually bring everybody outside, and we're going to film a bunch of teachers who are able to participate with us today as they're engaged in a lot of process-oriented art activity ideas that you will be able to use in your program. Thanks.
you.